The show focused on delivering beneficial information on everything to do with products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on AM 650.
Welcome back to the program. It's about dogs today with Phil Moriarty, the owner of the BC Canine Training Center at the foot of number 3 Road below Steveston Highway, right by the water in Richmond. We're talking about all of the services that BC Canine Training Center offers, Phil, and some of the training programs. There's a 1-week training program. There's a 2-week training program. Do all of them involve leaving the dog for either the 1 week and boarding for the training purposes, or is there a day drop the dog off in the morning, pick him up in the afternoon, and spend the evenings at home training program as well?
Yeah, that's our outboard.
Okay.
We've got a few in for outboard right now. In fact, one of the ones that's in for outboard training is one of the ones that's being recorrected.
This is
from a dog walking.
The dog walker sort of untrained this poor dog, and it has to be retrained now. Yeah. Which is more effective? I mean, obviously people go for the programs that accommodate their lifestyle and their all of that sort of thing. But from a training perspective, Phil, is there a more desired approach?
In what way?
In terms of boarding in versus dropping off, that kind of thing?
Yeah. If the dog is minimum 6 months, because we don't really want to be taking people's money when a dog is less than 6 months old.
That was my next question.
For the inboard training.
Thank you for beating me to that punch.
It's always good to beat anybody to a punch. So you don't want to be second there.
All right.
Yeah, and I like this. What is that? That's a semi-am.
We have water glasses in our studio from the nice people at Semi-Ammo Resort in Blaine, and they have kind of a golf motif. And Phil and I both fancy ourselves to be golfers, and this is right up our alley.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, so the 1 week program is typically for dogs that don't really have behavioral problems or perceived behavioral problems.
And this would be for the younger dogs as well, Phil?
Yeah, anything 6 months or older.
Okay, right.
Yeah, 6 months must have all their shots.
Right.
And
proof of same.
Oh yeah. We don't let any dog in the kennel that hasn't proven that it's got all its shots up to date. It's
good policy.
Not fair to the dogs that are already there.
Sure.
And it's not fair to that dog either to come in. And the 2 week program is typically for the average dog. And but the outboard program is more for, just as we're doing here, we're sort of retouching the area that the dog's been at before.
Okay.
And
kind of a tune-up almost, huh?
Yeah, trying to bring it back to where it is. And typically, it's not the dog, not for the benefit of the dog that we're doing that. It's more for the benefit of the owner, because the owner is the one who's lost control of the dog.
Sure.
We encourage when we send the dog home, we always give a lesson. And
you keep all my good questions away, because I was going to ask you, in either the 1 week or the 2 week program you spend with the dog, how much, and it's very important that the owner take a lesson or two as part of that. How much time of the owner do you require in order that you connect the training the dog's just been through so the owner can carry it forward?
Yeah, we don't give the dog back without giving the owner a lesson.
Sure.
And the owner comes in, and typically we like to see the owner and his or her spouse, and
what about kids?
Yeah, and any adult kids who are going to be interacting on a primary basis with the dog. Little kids, we're not encouraging them to come in and get a lesson. They're just going to confuse the situation.
Sure.
And confuse the dog in many respects.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that somebody learns. So at least when they're home, they can practice and bounce off each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it won't be a good idea to let the kids, if they're under 7 or 8 years of age, try to control the dog, because their attention level isn't sufficient for them to be able to understand what the corrections are all about.
Right.
At any rate, so the lesson is given before they even take the dog home.
All right.
And then we encourage them to at least practice for a couple of weeks, make any notes that they need to make, and find out, where they are going wrong. Let the dog catch up to them.
Right.
because everybody's, dogs read body language, and my body language could be different than yours. Yours is different than, say, your wife. And so the dog needs to understand each person, and the tone of voice of this person is different than the tone of voice from that person. But
even though they're saying the same word.
Same word, but body language is different and the tone's different. So
Right.
the dog needs to understand that when you say it in that tone, you mean it.
Right.
And it sounds much different than somebody else.
Right.
So the dog, lots of people come in and say, the dog listens to my husband, but he won't listen to me.
Right.
And
I hear that a lot, actually.
Yeah. So and vice versa.
I was just going to say, I hear it in the reverse. I hear this dog will do anything for my wife. He will die for my wife. Me, I can't get him to fetch a tennis ball, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And what's that all about?
If the woman is closer to the dog in terms of time spent, and her tolerance level will be less than the guy that comes home and spends a few hours with the dog, and the dog can't do any wrong.
Right, and she's with him all day,
right.
And catches all behaviors.
Right, and the dog reads that kind of behavior and says, I know where I can go now.
That's right. Kids are like that too.
Yeah, and so if they make notes and need to come back for another session,
a bit of a refresher session.
Yeah, sure.
That's also possible.
It's suggested.
You've got dogs right now at the BC Canine Training Center from all over the Lower Mainland, a few from Vancouver Island, but you've also bringing them in. You've got some down from the North Coast here in BC. You've got them in from Alberta, from Saskatchewan. Why is the BC Canine Training Center being singled out by people out of province as being such a desirable location, Phil?
I think a lot of it is the level of training that we'll take the dogs to. Because we'll take them up to the Justice Institute level for working dogs and protection. And a lot of the out-of-town dogs are typically the larger breeds who the owners would live on, say, an acreage and
a ranch or something.
A ranch and a more remote area. They want the dogs to be perhaps a protection dog, because they're remote.
Sure.
They may be away, the wife's, and kids are around. So typically what they would do is ship the dog to us for the 2-week inboard, because that's the foundation for everything.
That's the standard training program.
Yeah, right. And during the 2 weeks, if we knew in advance that they wanted to go to the next level, that would give us an opportunity to train it with that focus and also to assess the probability that the dog would be able to pass.
And I should probably interrupt and point out that the BC Canine Training Center has been training work or service dogs up to the standards of the Justice Institute of British Columbia for many, many years. And if you're going to be a patrol dog working with a security company or maybe the border agency or one of those official assignments, there's an extra, how much, if you do the 2-month training program, Phil, and that's the foundation, how much additional training is...
The 2-week.
I'm sorry, the 2-week, I'm sorry, 2-week training program, the basic. How much additional training is required for any dog to be trained up to those very high Justice Institute service dog standards?
Typically, you're looking probably averaging around $4,000, $4,500.
And how many weeks or months beyond the 2-week basic?
It could be a month or two.
Okay.
A lot of it is going to depend on how quickly once we've assessed that the dog is likely to pass.
Okay.
Then it's going to be more up to the owner, because the owner has to put the commitment in.
Sure.
The owner has to understand what it is we're trying to get the dog to do, and has to understand the levels and the discipline levels and the rules surrounding bite work and that sort of thing. Otherwise, the dog could fail, even though it does a great job, but it doesn't know how to pull itself back.
Right, okay.
Because we need to be able to release a dog verbally with no correction, with one word.
Exactly.
So when that dog's at a 10 out of 10 excitement level and has bitten the arm guard, when he's 10 out of 10, you still have to be able to just use your voice.
Stand him down in one word.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a pretty specialized training program then, isn't it? So how many people, and this happens, and I have a friend who's had big dogs, shepherds. And every now and then there's a puppy, and he goes, this would make a fantastic police dog. He's got all the ingredients and all of that stuff. And how many people come to you on an annual basis and go, this dog's a little different, a little special. Could be a working dog. Maybe it's the wrong dog for my family, but this is a really special animal. Do you get that a lot?
I do. I got a few dogs that way.
I bet you have.
Yeah.
So
no, we just put through, I think last month we put through 3 dogs, and I'm putting another 2 through this month. We're just trying to get some dates now. I've got another lady who's bringing hers for her final sessions this Sunday, actually, Saturday and Sunday, and next week we'll probably put her through if we can get a time at the JI for her. And
you mean that this would putting them through, that would be the testing to be certified as
certification
as a service dog?
Yeah, and all of my dogs are certified.
Right, of course.
So length of time, I think was your question.
Yeah.
That depends on the owner of the dog.
Right. And of course there would be a certain commitment. If you really believe that the animal has a future as a working dog, then you're going to have to spend some money to get it trained up before you can sell it to someone who would want to have it, right?
Right. See, a lot of people think that putting the engine in the car is the most important thing. Well, with an animal whose brain has to be subordinate to yours,
right?
Because it doesn't know what the law is. It just knows bite, don't bite. It doesn't know why bite, don't bite. It just has to follow your lead.
Right.
So if you put that great big engine in this machine, the most important part of that engine is the brakes.
Right.
Because it's easy to put that engine in because you're building on the dog's genetic makeup and its natural instincts, and it's prey. It's going after prey. It knows what to do, and it knows how to keep prey and retain it. But it's counterintuitive for the dog to let it go.
Sure.
Because I want to keep it. So it's more important and that's why the basic obedience is so important to the whole foundation of the dog. We would never even think of putting a dog through the rest of it without the basic obedience.
The 2-week program, right?
Because that 2-week program is the foundation for the brakes. Training a dog to do something isn't getting it to do something. It's not only getting it to do something, but it's getting it not to do other things.
Right, that's true.
So when you tell it to sit, you're not telling it to sit as a trick, and then you turn away and it gets up. You're telling it to sit, and it has to agree that it's going to sit until you tell it to do something else.
Right.
So it's the brakes, the self-control that the dog has to learn once you've told it to sit, that it doesn't move. Once you tell it to go down, that it doesn't just go down and then you turn your back and it's up.
Yeah, right. And
or it's up until the cookie's devoured.
Right.
So it's the brakes that are more important than the whole training process, because you'll fail on the brakes. The dog will not pass.
Right.
If you give that dog a bite and it doesn't out when you tell it to out, that dog fails. And it's 0 tolerance. So you can invest everything you want in getting the dog to work on all its natural instincts. But if you don't learn how to get the brakes on,
to hit the brakes.
And that's why it's so important that's why it takes the time for the owner to catch on.
Right.
Because that's the owner's responsibility.
We'll talk more training techniques with the owner of the BC Canine Training Center, Phil Moriarty, with us here on AM 650. Lots more still ahead. We're back after this.
Delivering relevant and beneficial consumer information. This is Experts on Call. And there's more still ahead on AM 650.